Have you ever stared at your messy room and wondered, why does this bother me so much, yet I still can't make myself fix it? What if your reluctance to clean isn't laziness at all? What if it's a message, a quiet signal from the deeper parts of you, calling for attention? There are moments in life when the simple act of cleaning your home feels heavier than it should. You walk past the clutter, noticing it yet avoiding it, telling yourself you'll deal with it later. But later never comes, or if it does, it arrives in frustrated bursts of energy followed by guilt, fatigue, or emotional discomfort. Many people assume this avoidance is laziness or lack of discipline, but the truth often lies somewhere much deeper. Your reluctance to tidy up your space is frequently a sign that your inner world is carrying a weight that has not yet been expressed. It is a reflection of a quiet chaos within you, an unrest that your conscious mind has not fully acknowledged. Human beings don't avoid tasks arbitrarily. We avoid what overwhelms us emotionally. We avoid what mirrors our internal state too accurately. A cluttered room, a pile of unfinished tasks, a corner of the house that keeps gathering things you don't know where to put. These are not random accidents. They are indicators. They are symbols. They show where your inner voice has become muted, where the emotional noise has grown louder than the practical tasks you believe you should be doing. When your inner world is disorganized, distressed, overwhelmed, or unresolved, your outer world often begins to resemble it. The dishes you leave undone represent thoughts you don't want to process. The clothes left on the chair represent decisions you feel unsure about. The papers piled on your desk represent responsibilities that feel too heavy to face. This is the quiet language of the psyche, speaking through your environment, asking you to pay attention. Your avoidance of cleaning is not a flaw. It is a signal. It is your soul's way of telling you that something inside you requires understanding. It is the mind's attempt to protect you from a deeper discomfort you may not be ready to confront. Avoidance is not about the task itself. It is about the emotions that surface when the task begins. Because cleaning is not truly about wiping surfaces or organizing items. Cleaning is about creating order, and order forces you to meet yourself, your thoughts, your past, your desires, your fears. When your inner world is unsettled, order feels threatening. Structure feels demanding. Organization feels like a confrontation with everything you've been postponing. You may find yourself distracted, drained, or irritated when facing the idea of cleaning because it is not the dust or clutter that exhausts you. It is what the dust and clutter represent. They represent the parts of yourself that feel chaotic. They represent the emotions you have not yet named. They represent unspoken pain or unexpressed needs that linger beneath your daily routines. Your unconscious mind uses your home as a canvas. It expresses what you don't say, what you suppress, and what you haven't yet understood about yourself. A messy environment forms when your inner voice goes unheard. When your emotions become too overwhelming or confusing to articulate, your outer world absorbs the weight. Avoidance becomes a coping mechanism, a way of postponing introspection until you feel strong enough to face it. There is also an emotional truth hidden in the clutter you avoid. Some people grew up in environments where their needs were dismissed or their voice was discouraged. For them, cleaning becomes symbolic. It becomes tied to pressure, expectations, criticism, or emotional labor. The avoidance of cleaning is not about the task itself, but the emotional associations attached to it. The moment they attempt to tidy, old memories or emotional patterns surface, making them unconsciously resist the act. Others avoid cleaning because their life feels stagnant or their direction unclear. When you don't know where you are going internally, deciding where items belong externally becomes a struggle. You lack the clarity to create order because the order you need must first be established within yourself. This is why some people experience a burst of cleaning energy when they feel emotionally renewed or inspired. Their outer world shifts the moment their inner world does. Your environment communicates your truth even when you don't. It reveals where your energy feels blocked, where your spirit feels weary, and where your thoughts feel tangled. When you avoid cleaning, your soul is not failing. It is signaling. It is asking for gentleness, not judgment. It is asking for understanding, not pressure. It is asking for space to breathe, not demands to perform. Your inner chaos hasn't found its voice yet. It speaks through the things you avoid, the tasks that feel impossible, and the spaces that go untouched. The clutter becomes a map of your emotional landscape, pointing toward the parts of you that are still seeking expression, healing, or recognition. A cluttered environment is rarely just a collection of misplaced objects. It is a reflection of something deeper, something that has been quietly building inside you long before it ever appeared on your shelves, your desk, or your floors. When your surroundings become chaotic, it is often because something within you has gone unacknowledged. The outer disorder becomes a physical manifestation of the emotional landscape you have not yet processed. It is your inner world spilling into your outer world, asking to be noticed, asking to be understood. People rarely think of clutter this way because society teaches us to view messiness as laziness or irresponsibility. But emotional truth is rarely so simple. A cluttered space forms when emotions accumulate without expression. It forms when your feelings, your memories, your fears, and your unspoken experiences gather beneath the surface. Over time, this internal build-up begins to appear externally. What you push down inside finds a way to rise around you. Every pile of papers you avoid sorting may represent decisions you feel uncertain about. Every corner filled with unfinished tasks may reflect a part of your life where you feel stuck. Every drawer you hesitate to open may symbolize emotions you hesitate to confront. Clutter becomes symbolic, an emotional language that speaks even when you cannot. Unprocessed emotions don't disappear, they wait, they linger. They seek recognition. And when they are not given space inside you, they take space outside you. This is why some people struggle to organize even when they want to. Something deeper stands in the way, not a lack of ability, but a lack of emotional clarity. You cannot create external order when your internal world feels heavy, tangled, or unresolved. Clutter often builds during periods of emotional overwhelm. When you experience loss, stress, anxiety, conflict, or internal confusion, your mind becomes preoccupied. Your energy shifts from maintaining your environment to simply coping. During these times, cleaning feels impossible because your emotional system is already overloaded. Clutter then becomes evidence of pain you never fully expressed. It becomes a timeline of emotional moments that were too intense, too sudden, or too complicated to handle at the time they first appeared. There is also a psychological truth hidden within clutter. Many people hold on to items because they hold on to emotions. A shirt saved from a past relationship, a box of belongings tied to old ambitions, a stack of letters reminding you of who you once were. These objects carry emotional weight. They represent identities you've outgrown or wounds you haven't healed. Letting go of them feels like letting go of parts of yourself you haven't fully understood yet. The clutter remains not because you need the objects, but because you haven't resolved the emotions attached to them. In this way, your environment becomes a mirror. It reflects not only your habits, but your emotional history. It reveals where you are holding on, where you are longing, where you are grieving, where you are avoiding, and where you are silently asking for change. The clutter is not random. It is meaningful, it is expressive, and yet it is also protective. A cluttered environment can act as a shield, creating a barrier between you and feelings you are not ready to face. The objects around you can create a sense of distraction, delaying the deeper emotional work waiting for you underneath the surface. Avoiding the mess becomes a way of avoiding the truth. For some, this feels safer than confronting the emotions directly. A cluttered space may also reflect an internal desire for comfort or familiarity. Some people create physical fullness when they feel emotional emptiness. Surrounding yourself with items can create a sense of stability when your inner world feels uncertain. The environment becomes a cocoon, even if it is overwhelming. It becomes a way of holding on when you haven't yet learned how to let go. But one of the most important truths about clutter is this: it seeks recognition. It wants you to acknowledge what it represents. It wants you to see the emotions behind it, the unresolved grief, the forgotten dreams, the fears you silence, the transitions you resist. Clutter asks you to pause and pay attention. It asks you to notice what you've been carrying emotionally but have not yet processed. This is why cleaning can sometimes feel like an emotional release. When you sort, organize, or let go of items, you are not just moving objects, you are moving emotions. You are allowing yourself to confront what the clutter has been trying to show you. You are giving voice to feelings that have been waiting for acknowledgement. Resistance to tidying is often misunderstood. People tend to label it as laziness, procrastination, or a lack of discipline. But beneath that surface level interpretation lies something far more meaningful. When you consistently feel unable to tidy your space, when even small tasks feel unusually heavy, your soul may be trying to reveal areas of your life where you feel powerless, overwhelmed, or emotionally stretched beyond your capacity. Tidying becomes less about physical effort and more about emotional readiness. It is not the clutter itself that burdens you. It is the emotional truth behind it. Many individuals find themselves staring at a messy room with the desire to clean, but no strength to begin. This paralysis does not come from physical exhaustion alone. It comes from an inner sense of powerlessness. The simple act of picking up a single item can sometimes trigger a flood of internal reactions: uncertainty, fear of confronting memories attached to objects, or a reminder of responsibilities you don't yet feel strong enough to manage. Your resistance is a signal that something within you feels too large, too heavy, or too unresolved to engage with. Tidying is a form of decision-making. Every object forces you to choose, keep or discard, return or release. When your inner world is weighed down, decisions, even the smallest ones, feel like emotional labor. A person who feels overwhelmed internally cannot easily engage in tasks that require clarity, structure, or commitment. The inability to tidy is not a flaw, it is an emotional state. It is your soul saying, I don't have the energy to organize this because I don't have the energy to organize myself. Often, resistance emerges during times of transition or uncertainty. When life feels chaotic, the mind prioritizes survival over structure. You may be dealing with grief, stress, insecurity, pressure, fear of the future, or unresolved conflicts you haven't fully acknowledged. In these periods, tidying feels like a task that demands more from you than you have available. Your home becomes a reflection of the internal disorder, and the disorder becomes a reflection of the fact that you feel overwhelmed by far more than a room. There are also moments when resistance to tidying is rooted in a fear of losing control. When your external life feels unpredictable, clutter can become a strange form of comfort. It feels familiar, consistent, unchanging. Tidying threatens that sense of familiarity because it symbolizes change, movement, and letting go. You may avoid tidying because deep down you fear being left exposed or vulnerable once the environment shifts. The clutter becomes a protective layer, a shield that absorbs the emotional turbulence you are not yet ready to face directly. Another form of powerlessness stems from past experiences. For some people, cleaning is tied to criticism, pressure, or emotional expectations they encountered earlier in life. The act of tidying becomes associated with feelings of not being good enough, of never meeting someone's standards, or of being judged for not doing things right. In such cases, resistance is not about the mess, it is about the emotional wounds attached to the act of cleaning. Your soul resists because it remembers how the task made you feel before. Resistance can also come from perfectionism. When you feel overwhelmed by the idea that everything must be cleaned perfectly or all at once, your mind shuts down. The fear of not doing something flawlessly leads you to avoid doing it altogether. This perfectionistic paralysis is another form of powerlessness. The pressure to meet impossible standards drains you before you ever begin, leaving you emotionally defeated by a task that should be simple. On a deeper level, your environment often reflects the emotional boundaries you struggle to set. If you feel powerless in relationships, work, or personal decisions, your space may mirror that powerlessness. Items accumulate because you haven't had the inner authority to say, no, not anymore, or this doesn't belong in my life. Tidying becomes challenging because it requires you to confront these boundaries, and your soul may resist until you are ready to reclaim your voice. When you feel overwhelmed, your mind shifts into survival mode. Cleaning requires mental clarity, emotional stability, and personal agency, qualities that are hard to access when your soul feels drained. Your resistance is not a failure, it is a form of communication. It shows where your energy is depleted, where your confidence has dimmed, and where your spirit feels buried beneath obligations, expectations, or emotions you have not yet processed. Tidying is not just physical movement, it is emotional confrontation. It is decision-making, surrender, honesty, and self-recognition. When your soul resists it, that resistance is meaningful. It reveals the parts of your life where you feel unheard, unsupported, unbalanced, or overwhelmed. It reveals where you have lost your sense of power and where your energy has been stretched too thin to respond to even the simplest of tasks. Your living space is more than just the place you sleep, eat, or spend your free time. It is a silent reflection of your internal state. a mirror that reveals what you are emotionally prepared to face and what you are still avoiding. People often underestimate how deeply their environment is intertwined with their inner world, but the truth is that your surroundings speak your emotions long before you ever put them into words. The organization, the clutter, the colors, the neglected corners, the items you choose to display, and even the things you hide away tell a story about what is happening inside you. When you walk into your room or your home, you are essentially walking into a physical representation of your psyche. Every object you keep, every mess you postpone, every area you maintain, and every space you ignore reflects something about your emotional readiness. Some spaces feel open, welcoming, and clear because those are the parts of your inner life you have come to understand and accept. Other spaces feel heavy, chaotic, or stagnant because those are the parts you have not yet confronted within yourself. Your living space does not lie. It shows you what you are comfortable addressing and what still feels overwhelming. For some people, a tidy, organized room represents clarity and stability. For others, a cluttered or disordered room represents areas of their life where they feel uncertain, stuck, or emotionally overloaded. It is not the mess itself that matters. It is what the mess symbolizes. When you avoid organizing a certain drawer or cleaning a specific area, it often mirrors something you are avoiding inside a memory, a fear, a responsibility, or an emotion you are not yet ready to process. There are places in your home that you walk past without looking too closely because you know they will ask something of you. Time, effort, decisions, honesty. These are the same qualities your inner world requires, but that you may not feel prepared to give. The corner piled with unfinished tasks may reflect parts of your life you feel unprepared to bring closure to. The items you refuse to throw away may represent identities, relationships, or beliefs you haven't fully released. The chaotic desk may reflect scattered thoughts, unmade decisions, or a mind that feels too overloaded to focus. Even the decorations you choose reveal something about where you are emotionally. Some people fill their space with reminders of who they used to be because they are not yet ready to define who they are becoming. Others avoid decorating altogether because committing to a space feels like committing to themselves, and they may not feel secure enough to do that yet. Your living space mirrors your relationship with your identity, who you believe yourself to be and who you secretly wish you were. When your environment feels stagnant, it often mirrors emotional stagnation. When your space feels neglected, it may reflect emotional neglect toward yourself. When your space feels overly full, it may indicate emotional overcrowding, carrying too many expectations, too many obligations, too many unresolved experiences. And when your space feels empty or unfinished, it may reflect areas inside you where you feel uncertain, disconnected, or in transition. Your living space also mirrors your readiness for change. People who feel stuck in certain chapters of their lives often find their homes filled with objects that keep them tied to the past. They may hold onto things they no longer use because letting go feels emotionally difficult. They may avoid reorganizing because it would symbolize stepping into a new stage of life they are not yet prepared to embrace. Your environment becomes a physical timeline of your emotional evolution. There are also moments when your home reflects strength and healing. When you find yourself cleaning suddenly, rearranging furniture, or decluttering without being told, it often means something inside you is shifting. You are preparing for clarity. You are making space for something new. The environment begins to change because your inner world is preparing to transform. This is why people often feel lighter or more hopeful after tidying their space. The outer shift mirrors an inner awakening that has quietly begun. Your living space mirrors your boundaries as well. If you struggle to protect your emotional energy, you may find your space invaded by tasks, objects, or responsibilities that do not belong to you. If you have difficulty saying no in your personal life, you may notice the same pattern in your environment. Too many things, too many commitments, too many reminders of what others expect from you. Your home often reveals where boundaries are missing or where they need strengthening. Ultimately, your living space is not separate from your emotional world. It is the physical echo of your inner landscape, reflecting what feels safe to face and what still feels too painful, too confusing, or too heavy to confront within yourself. Transforming your home is never just about improving the appearance of a room or reorganizing objects on a shelf. It is a deeply symbolic act, one that touches the core of your identity and sense of self-worth. When you choose to change your living space, you are not merely shifting your external environment, you are reclaiming something internal, your order, your strength, and your self-respect. Your home becomes a canvas upon which your inner transformation is painted, one intentional choice at a time. There is a powerful emotional shift that occurs when you begin to rearrange, clean, or renew your surroundings. The physical act of transforming your space reflects a commitment to transforming your inner world as well. Every time you move an object, let go of something you no longer need, or create a sense of harmony where chaos once existed. You send a message to yourself. I deserve clarity. I deserve peace. I deserve a life that reflects who I am becoming. This message is subtle, but it reshapes the way you see yourself. When your home has been neglected for a long time, it often mirrors a period of inner neglect. Times when you felt overwhelmed, unseen, unsupported, or disconnected from your own needs. Choosing to transform such a space is a declaration of renewal. It is a moment when you decide that you will no longer coexist with environments that drain your energy or reflect a version of you who was surviving rather than thriving. The act of transformation becomes a turning point between who you were and who you are stepping into. Reclaiming your space also allows you to reclaim your sense of order. Many people underestimate how much internal confusion becomes embedded in their environment. A messy room can represent scattered thoughts, unfinished emotions, or unprocessed experiences. When you choose to clean or reorganize, you are choosing to bring structure to areas that once felt overwhelming. This isn't just a physical improvement, it reflects a growing inner clarity. Each part of your home that regains order becomes a symbol of your renewed mental and emotional stability. Strength is another quality you reclaim when transforming your home. It takes courage to confront a space that has become chaotic. It takes emotional resilience to face objects tied to painful memories, past identities, or forgotten dreams. It takes determination to break old patterns of avoidance or procrastination. When you choose to transform your home, you are choosing strength over passivity, action over stagnation. You are proving to yourself that you can handle what once felt impossible. This newfound strength echoes inward, reminding you that you are capable of taking control of your life piece by piece. There is also a quiet empowerment that arises when you release items that no longer serve you. Letting go is not merely a practical act, it is emotional liberation. You acknowledge that certain things belong to versions of yourself that have already evolved. You acknowledge that you are allowed to grow beyond old attachments, old beliefs, or old expectations. The more you release, the more room you create, not only in your home, but in your heart and mind. That spaciousness becomes symbolic of new possibilities, new boundaries, and new forms of self-respect. Self-respect grows in environments where you feel safe, supported, and aligned with your values. When your space is neglected, it can subtly reinforce feelings of unworthiness or exhaustion. But when you invest time, energy, and intention into making your home reflect love and care, you affirm your own worthiness. You tell yourself, I matter, my environment matters, my peace matters. This affirmation becomes internalized over time, shaping the way you show up in other areas of your life. Relationships, work, goals, and personal well-being. Transforming your home also allows you to reclaim your identity. Often, people live in spaces that reflect who they were years ago, not who they are today. Rooms filled with old items, outdated decor, or forgotten projects can keep you tied to past versions of yourself. When you redesign, declutter, or reimagine your environment, you open the door for a new identity to emerge. Your environment becomes an intentional expression of your current values, desires, and emotional needs. As your home transforms, so does your mindset. You begin to walk differently, think differently, and make decisions differently. You feel more grounded, more capable, more aligned. The physical transformation becomes evidence of inner growth, reinforcing your belief that you can create change wherever you choose to. Your home becomes a reflection not of your past struggles, but of your present strength and self-respect.